Hey everyone! It's Dave here. We're here for episode 4 of the Business Unscripted podcast. Where obviously it's just me today. There's no Duarne, as you can see, as the unscripted part of the show has kicked in already. Duarne has had some internet issues, so he's unable to join me this morning. So you just get me, and hopefully that's good enough. But so today, what we wanted to kind of jump in and talk about, as I was kind of thinking, is we want to do an overview. At the end of last episode, Duarne and I were doing an overview of the newsletter feature in LinkedIn and how things were going. If we saw kind of like an increase of impressions over the last 7 days, how the newsletter subscribers have been going. So we'll have to wait for next week to hear Duarne's, but I can kind of give you kind of my first 7-day results and what I've seen, from the newsletter. And obviously, it's something that will continue to be a strategy moving forward. We'll continue to post the articles. We'll continue to add value, and we will also. My strategy is to add a second newsletter that is more related to strategy, education, things in the financial realm, business development, etc. The first one was kind of a passion, I guess we'll call it a passion project newsletter, because it was fun to do. I love, watching individuals' educational content, and I know a lot of people would love to do it too, to get things out of it, and don't have the time to do it. So that's why the first newsletter that I created was breaking down the videos into actionable steps in a way where the reader can get that information in under 5 minutes. And then I was trying to think of a topic, and the first thing that really kind of sticks out to me is, especially for a business owner, is like time management. And I've kind of given kind of where I was and the strategies that I'm using now to kind of manage my time throughout the day, but also ways that you can improve and conversations that I've had. And then who knows how long that's going to take. It's the unscripted part. If we get to some other things at the end of the show, great. If you're watching, as always, if you have a question or if you have a thought, you can drop it in the comments. I will answer them live. And I always encourage, whether it's me, Duarne, or anybody else we're going to have on the podcast in the future, always encourage participation. And we want to make sure that we're giving you all the information that you have in the moment that you're watching. So give me 1 second. Allergies are kicking my butt. It is a springtime here in Cleveland. All right. So first, to start off, newsletter. So what I wanted to do is we'll kind of go over this here real quick. Let me pull up my screen. And let's go over to here. So what you'll see in the first week. So last week I had 690 post impressions, which was up 71% from prior postings. I also gained about 2.5 more followers, so I'm up to just shy of 2,000. What you'll notice down here is the newsletter subscribers. Right, I have 79 in the last 7 days, but remember, that's Friday to Friday. The first day that I launched, I had in that Thursday, I had a significant amount. And I'll pull that up here to kind of show you how many total I have. I think it's right around 220, if I believe, total in the last 8 days. So from 0 to 220 in 8 days is a pretty significant kind of jump. And then the newsletter article views is another one that's an interesting kind of topic here. Is 603 people actually opened one of the posts that I had done every day. So I went through and I posted every single day from last Thursday to today, and I've scheduled it out for the next couple days. And if you're looking and you're like, hey man, how do I do my own newsletter? Well, as we said before, you want to go into kind of your profile, and how you're going to get access to this is you're going to go right here where it says write article. And what that's going to do is, I went actually too far. So if you click write article, This is just an article that if you don't have a newsletter, going to go right to your page, right? Just right to your profile. But if you come up right here under manage, and I'm going to give Duarne credit for this, for showing me how to do it. So thanks, Duarne. Under newsletter, if you have one, it'll list it. Otherwise, you can hit create a new newsletter or create newsletter. And then anything you're going to do, anytime you want to run a post, anytime you want to run an article for your newsletter, you just come in here, click the newsletter, make sure that, you're clicked in. Now, if you want to, see actual information about your newsletter, there may be an easier way, but how I've done it is I've gone to my profile and I just scroll down to featured, and your newsletter gets featured right here on your profile for everybody to see. Whoever comes to your profile will be able to see that. So in this case, 218 subscribers in 8 days. But what you can also do is, again, LinkedIn kind of gives you some additional analytics. Is you can see every single article that you posted. Okay. And you're seeing I'm getting, for just starting out, the engagement for these is actually pretty good for free, right? I'm not boosting any of these. I'm not paying for any article, to get sent out. And what is truly an interesting thing that we found out, and I've seen since last conversation, is LinkedIn actually will email your subscribers and say, hey, by the way, here's a new article from Dave with X newsletter, right? Here's a new article with Duarne. And if they have their push notifications, it'll even send out that LinkedIn push notification to them saying, hey, here's the newest release, or here's something new from Dave and, right, his newsletter and Growth Tactics Weekly, right? So the benefit there is that you're getting all this exposure for your name, for yourself, for your newsletter, and you're not paying for it. LinkedIn is doing all that for you. So they're really pushing this feature. And so you can jump on the bandwagon early and be kind of an early adopter and really make a benefit for your network as well as for your expertise building, which is a big thing, social proof and building your expertise. And the beauty that every one of these articles, so if you want to click in, you can actually get some additional information. So let's go here to the one that I posted a couple days ago about AI coming to you. And it's going to be here. Up at the top, you can see different stats about the post. You can see your comments. So up here, when it loads, if it loads here in a second, it's being slow. Typical computers. You would think it was a Monday. But you'll actually be able to see how many people were, how many impressions you got on that one article, how many people were reached, how many people actually viewed the article, and how many actual emails were sent out, and then what the open rate was from your emails. So just like, you may be sending out a typical newsletter within like Go High Level to like your entire email list, you can also then take that and duplicate it into LinkedIn so that you can begin to, get that information out to LinkedIn in another medium. I actually had this conversation with a prospect friend connection of mine who is a bookkeeper who is doing a newsletter right now manually through like Go High Level or their email software. And I mentioned the newsletter feature to her, and it's simple because you're already doing all the work. You don't have to try it. If you're doing a once a week, newsletter, you have to, go back and recreate the wheel per se. You can literally take what you are already doing and duplicate it into a newsletter fashion within LinkedIn. And it's a great way for you to really begin to increase your awareness. Okay. So go ahead and try it. If you have any questions about it, I encourage you to kind of reach out. We're still playing through, that's kind of the point of this podcast, is that we're sharing with strategies and things that we're doing in real time with you so that you can learn with us. But also we're going to talk about like things in the past, like we're about to get into, that we've done, we've explored, we've kind of struggled with, and what we've done to overcome those things. So if you have any questions about the LinkedIn newsletter, reach out. We'll kind of point you in the right direction, but it's fairly point and click. Like LinkedIn does we'll give LinkedIn credit there. It does a good job of making it simple, really making it simple for, the user to, populate that. So when I was thinking of topics, kind of rolling into, the live part, of, and not the accountability part of our session, I was trying to think of what do I want to talk about today? As again, we're not like really, we don't script our episodes here. It's more like what we're going through and ways to improve. So today, what I was thinking is, a couple conversations that I've had recently have been about the time management piece and not having enough hours in a day. At least it made it, the people were seeming like they didn't have enough hours in a day to accomplish everything that they needed to do, or that we were, kind of advising them to do. And really what this comes down to is, one, you have to understand where your time is going. Far too often, I have seen with clients and other prospects, or team members of mine that I've been in charge of. What it comes down to is not knowing what you're doing on a regular basis. So a time study. But then once you understand it, not having a proper priority system to understand like what's important. Like what is like the end all be all today, and then what can be pushed off for later. And then the third piece of this is truly using your calendar and you managing it versus letting your time and your calendar sort of manage you. And so we'll get into each one of these three. So first, a time study. If you're wondering what is a time study, how to do a time study, it's truly broken down into something simple like this. Take a piece of paper for a week, and from the moment you get up until the moment you go to bed, in blocks, document what you were doing. So as simple as 7 to 8, I get up, right? I got up, brushed my teeth, got ready for the day, started making coffee. All right, perfect. From 8 to 10, got in, checked, my emails, started getting ready for the day, planning the day, checked my calendar. Okay, great. Now, one thing that I would ask you to do is like checking emails. That is something that I think a lot of people get caught up in, because it can pull you away from your day-to-day activities. Like you could be productive as hell right now, but if you have like your email notification turned on, or you have like your text messages, notification turned on your computer where you get the notification, I use Apple, so it pops up in the top right? You could be in the middle of something that is like, you're really rocking it, you're killing it, and you see that notification and it completely pulls you away. So my suggestion is turn off notifications throughout the day, so that you're not being distracted, especially if when you're doing your time study, you're finding out that like when you add everything up, you're spending like 20% of your day like responding to emails, responding to text. Now, there's a difference if they're like client servicing emails, or if it's just like opening up emails, deleting old ones, or checking like spam folders and different things like that, which a lot of people do. So block out like what you do throughout the day. Be specific. Like you spent, like say you're blocking out the 9 to 10 hour or 9 to 11 hour. Be specific. Okay, I spent about 25 minutes, checking emails. I spent another 20 to 25 minutes, reviewing the schedule, planning for the day. And then I really got into my first meeting at 10 a.m. or whatever it ends up being. But then do that all the way till the evening. So like even put down, even go out there and put like, all right, from 5 to 6, I cooked dinner, 6 to 7, ate dinner with the family, cleaned up, did dishes, got ready, for the evening. And then from, 7 to, 9, watched the show. And then from 9 to 9:30, got ready for bed and then went to bed. Because what you're going to be able to find once you do this for a week and you start looking back and you say, okay, well, here's all this dead time. And what do I mean by dead time? Might be hard for some of you to hear. But dead time when you're a business owner is time that you're not doing anything as an entrepreneur for your business. And some of that stuff may be important to you. So maybe like it's like gym, every single day is an hour. Well, I call that dead time, but it's something that's important to you with your health. So I wouldn't advise you to kind of take that dead time away. But what you may find is that every night you're sitting at the TV or you're scrolling Facebook or you're looking at YouTube for 2 hours every night. Well, that to me is dead time. That is 8, right, to 12 hours a week that you are doing nothing for your business. You could be having a conversation with somebody on social media. You could be creating some email campaigns that you want to send out. You could be thinking about the offers that you want to make. You could be following up on your emails on this time instead of throughout the day, right? So do something for your business every single time that you can, and don't consider dead time, right? Don't maximize your dead time, minimize your dead time. So save it for the weekend, right? And even then, when you're a business owner, you don't have weekends. So what are you doing on the weekend? So do that do a time study for 7 days, from Monday to Sunday. Really track out from sun up to sundown, where are you spending your time? And if pen and paper is too difficult, we all got our phones, use the notepad on your phone, right? Just make a quick note, type up, all right, I'm about to start this project. And then, when you're done with it, end it. If you're a little bit more technology savvy, there is a free app for like Chrome or your computer. It's called Clockify. You start the timer when you start a project, you type in what you're doing, and then you stop it. And then you go to the next one, and then you start it and stop it. You can do a free account there, track your time for an entire week, see where you're spending your time. That's step 1, is doing a time study, find out where are you spending your time. Step 2 with your time is understanding, once you've identified that, is how to prioritize your tasks. What do you have to do throughout a day? Like, what are you using to manage your tasks? Do you have a to-do list? Do you have it written down? And how do you then manage your priorities? So do you have like a high-low, medium kind of priority tasking? And for me, how I put this priority is I at least want to spend, and I follow Alex Ramosi on this, like I at least want to try to spend like 100 minutes a day on outreach. So whether that's to warm network, cold network, like I want to spend 100 minutes a day. Now there are days where it just doesn't work, but I need to do better. And that's why I have this, kind of platform here, is to, talk about these, but then also let you know, like, hey, these are what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm just like you, I'm human. There's going to be times where we're going to fall behind, or, it's not going to happen for that day because we have back-to-back meetings with clients, and sometimes that 100 minutes doesn't fit in, and then you got kids' baseball games, and by the end of the day you have dinner. So you have to set something for yourself, a goal, and a goal, just because it's not attained doesn't mean you suck. Give yourself some leeway. But so set your priorities. So for me, that's a big priority for me. So any open time I manage with, right, I put out there, and I that I want to do at least 100 minutes on outreach. Then I look at my client tasks, like what's coming up. Like, for example, it's coming up on tax season. So I have taxes I need to wrap up. I need taxes I need to finalize for people. So that's top of priority list. So essentially, when I go and we'll talk about managing your calendar, when I go to create my list for the day or my tasks for the day, those things are marked higher than anything else, as well as, and we're going to talk about this in a second, like actually going through your calendar and blocking it out. But think through, like, what and how do you prioritize? That's important. That's step 2, right? If you're not doing anything, you're just kind of picking what's easiest, right? Sometimes what's easiest is not what's important. It's easy because it's not important. And so when you find yourself doing all these easy tasks, or these tasks that aren't leading to, new client acquisition or new outreaches or new conversations or uncomfortable situations, we're always, as a default, going to go back and find ourselves doing the easy stuff. just because it's there. And what that does, it becomes a time waster because you're spending all your time doing this easy stuff that doesn't lead you to new business. It doesn't lead you to have new conversations, but you feel like you're being productive. And then you turn around at the end of a month and be like, well, what did I do? Why do I not have any new clients? Well, because, and I'll use a bookkeeping example, right? If you're a bookkeeper and, you manage and you can categorize your client, let's say a client or two clients every month, but you spend time every single week doing it, unless you promise to them that you're going to have their stuff done weekly because that's the package they're paying for, you're spending too much time doing their stuff. Because at the end of the month, you can spend an extra 20 minutes to categorize the entire month instead of spending an hour and a half every single week. It adds up. And by over delivering, we talked, I talk about this in my group coaching like the other week. Like when you over deliver, right, you actually drive the value of your service down. Like if one of your packages, if one of your offering in your services is to have everything updated every week, and then your other one is just make sure things are done every month, but you're doing everything every week, you're over delivering to that client and you're taking away time from yourself. So you need to start prioritizing, what am I actually offering the service to my clients, and only doing what you promise, right? Now, granted, I'm not saying you can't go over and beyond a few times, but if you don't prioritize other things which are more important, right? So, if you've done all your outreach for the day and you've had great conversations today and you've done things to help generate new customers, and you still have time at the end of the day to go back and maybe do a little bit of categorization, perfect. But your categorization should not be done first. See, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about priority, right? Priority means the things to get you new clients, to get you to that new level. That's what needs to happen first, not happen after you're done with the easy stuff. The easy stuff, that comes later. That comes when you've done all the hard stuff, the uncomfortable stuff. And the third step that for me worked was actually then, as we just briefly chatted about, was managing your calendar. That's step 3, is actually going out and blocking time for the different activities that you need to do throughout the day. The simple part of this is to do this manually. So to go into an Outlook or Google Calendar or whatever system that you use to manage your calendar, and go out and let's say from 8 to 9, you're going to block it for, getting ready for the day, planning for your meetings, etc. But then block out the rest of the day for what you want to do. So maybe 9 to 11 is outreach. And every day, put a block in that calendar for 9 to 11 for outreach, because it's a priority for you. Like that's your top priority. You want to make sure you do it every day, so you block it out. And then do that until you go to bed. Like you block out your personal time, you block out time for outreach, you block out time to respond to emails, you block out time for ABC. But you do that every day. And what that does is now you're managing your calendar and your time instead of your time and your calendar managing you. And here's where I ran into this problem. I ran into this problem because I would just leave my calendar open. And whenever anybody wanted to drop something on my calendar, no matter what, they could drop something on my calendar. And what I found is that really was hindering my productivity. Because what was happening is I would feel like I'd be in the middle of something and then I'd have to jump, and somebody would have scheduled a meeting, with like a 15-minute break. Well, you can't really accomplish not much in 15 minutes. So we'd have the meeting, either the person would show up or they wouldn't show up. And then, my entire 30, 45 minutes is lost, when I could have been doing something more productive if I would have just blocked out my calendar. And so what I found is that I was having all these meetings and I was filling my calendar with all these meetings, but they weren't like qualified meetings, right? They were just kind of intro meetings for people that I probably, didn't want to do business with or wasn't going to be able to help, or I didn't need their service, and I was taking all these meetings and, saying yes too much. And so what I had to do was I had to kind of really cut that back and really begin to only do things that either could be a benefit to the individual that I'm talking with, so they're a qualified person to talk with, or they could benefit me because it's something that I needed, right? It was something, a service that or a support team system that I needed. And I wanted to have that meeting. But what I also did with my calendar is I then actually like limited the time when my introduction meetings could happen. And I, instead of saying, okay, from 8 to 5 or 6 o'clock, I limit these to only like 2 hours a day when somebody could potentially book an intro meeting with me. But that still gives me, as the business owner, right, the manager of my calendar, still gives me the power to schedule meetings elsewhere and other times. But for people to drop things on my calendar, it's only going to typically happen between 1 and 3 p.m. Eastern. If I decide to open that up, I can. But the important piece to pick up here is that you manage your calendar. Your calendar doesn't manage you. Now, if you're saying, I don't want to do all this manually, it seems like too much work. What I use is the platform Motion. You guys may have seen it. This isn't a paid advertisement here. I just use it. What Motion does is it connects to your calendar, and it allows you to put all the tasks you want to get in, whether they're recurring or one time. You get to put in a deadline, right? You can put in how long you think it's going to take you, how small of chunks you're willing to work on that task right throughout the day. And then what Motion will do is it'll take all the meetings you currently have on your calendar, and it'll then take all your tasks ranked on your priority and book them into your open slots throughout the day. So that anytime, like for me, anytime throughout the day, I know what I should be working on. Now, there are times where it puts something where I don't want it to, so I'll work on something else and it'll automatically move it, which that's the beauty of it. It's AI driven. So if time goes by and you didn't get that task done, you didn't mark it as complete, it's going to move it to another open slot in the future. So that's the beauty of it. It's going to manage your task list always. And if you want to take it a step further, Motion even has the ability. So like if, let's say you set something for a deadline of next Friday, and it sees that in order for it to get done, it has to block out time, like actually block the time on your calendar. It will do that. It has the ability to actually mark you as busy on your calendar so that you actually focus on that instead of it still like showing up. Like if you're using a Calendly or a Go High Level or a HubSpot calendar, the basic version, right? The baseline version of Motion will show it on your calendar, but show it as open. So anytime somebody clicks on your calendar link, it's still going to show that you have that time open. You could, again, tell Motion if it's in the, I forgot how they word it, but if it's something like, if it's, at risk of going over the deadline, it will block out, the time. Otherwise, it's just shown as open time and, it's still available on your calendar to be booked. And so what I have found from that is that it's truly helped to manage my, task list, but it's also helped to manage my calendar, right? So there's never a time where I get done with a meeting, I look and I have another hour, I can go to my Motion and it's going to tell me exactly what I should be working on based on my priorities. And so you can set your priorities from low, medium, high. You have the ability to kind of really customize it and go out there and kind of make it your own, different projects, whatever you want to do. But I love Motion because it actually helps keep my calendar, and it allows me to manage my calendar, not my calendar manage me. So that's kind of the topic, right? So one, do a time study, go out there and really like think through like, where am I spending my time? And live, like do it, write it down, track it with Clockify, whatever you need to do, but do a time study. After you do a time study, hopefully it's not a story. Once you do a time study, then think of prioritization. And how are you prioritizing your tasks now? And are you finding that you're doing a lot of the easy stuff throughout the day just because it's easy, and you're putting off the more difficult, uncomfortable things that actually are there to lead you to the next step, right? To find new clients. So many people have had a conversation with lately. That's where you're at. You're stuck in this, thing of just doing the easy things because they're there, but they're not really pushing you forward. and they're actually, they don't even need to be done as often as you're doing them. So take a look at yourself and really begin to kind of move that forward. And again, these are things that I have seen, I have experienced in my life when it comes to time management. And then third is take control of your calendar. Whether you want to use Motion or any other software that's out there, I'm not aware of any other software that does that, but or just do it manually yourself. Like just take your calendar and block it. You have to do it. Now you can listen to me. You can say these are all great things, but unless you get off the video and you go and begin to implement something immediately, more often than not, you're not going to do it. And I know that because I've seen it. I've had this conversation countless times over the last 2.5, 3 years with people. Every time I come back, hey, how are things going with your calendar? You haven't done that yet. Or they put it off. It's just for whatever reason, like you're not going to get better with your time management unless you actually go and actually manage your time. And if you're not willing to do that, you're just going to continue spinning your wheels, continuing to do the same stuff time in and time out. And in the end, I can't help. But I can point you in the right direction. And that's what I'm here for. And this is my story when it comes to this. So, you may want to do something else. You may try something else in terms of your time management. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, like maybe try what we just talked about. So do a time study, prioritize your tasks, and then, begin to manage your calendar. But until then, my accountability for this week is as I just mentioned earlier about my 100 minutes, I want to really focus on making sure that I'm doing 100 minutes of outreach for the next week. I have it booked in my calendar, but sometimes things, kind of overtake it. But I got to get back to that. And I just got to start reaching out to not only my warm, right? I think when people think outreach, they think they're warm clients, but also doing outreach to your cold network as well. But by doing that for 100 minutes a day, 7 days a week, we'll see how that works. Alex Ramosi says it works great. We'll see how he works. But until then, we'll be here next Friday. Hopefully Duarne's internet will be fixed. Duarne, we miss you, buddy. I also missed the back and forth conversation. I don't want to just be the center of everybody's attention. And plus, people probably don't want to just hear me for 30 minutes straight. But I hope everybody has a great week. And again, keep pushing forward. If you have any questions or have any comments, make sure you drop them down below. We look forward to hearing you. We'd love to answer your questions live. Also, if you're a business owner and if you'd like to jump on a future podcast, we're looking for ways to really sort of add value to everybody in the network. If you want to get on with me or Duarne, or maybe an episode when Duarne's not going to be here and it's just me and you, I will be opening up. Send me a message or send me a DM. I am going to be looking for people to basically come on live. We'll learn about what you do, where you are, but be willing to talk about one or two obstacles or struggles that you're going through in your business. And we'll talk through how we could possibly, give you some suggestions on ways to overcome that. And then we'll have you back for a future to kind of talk about how did that actually happen? What did you implement? How did it come? What was the outcomes, et cetera? So if you're a business owner and you want to jump onto a podcast and you want to talk about your business and you want to maybe talk about one or two obstacles that you're going through, and Duarne and I could, help point you in the right direction, then send me a message, get in contact with us, drop a message down below, or shoot us a DM as well. We'd love to have a conversation with you. So I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I look forward to seeing everybody Friday, and we'll see you in the next one.